What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can wrap a UIKit UIView in a SwiftUI view. In the previous video we took a look at how we can wrap a UIKit view controller in a SwiftUI view, and so logically, the next step is to show you how to wrap a singular UI view into a SwiftUI view. It's a little bit less work than with view controllers, but ultimately that will depend on what kind of view that you want to create and what view you have. So again, this isn't just for Apple created UI views that SwiftUI simply doesn't have equivalents for yet. This is also for if you have views in a UIKit project that you don't have SwiftUI equivalents for yourself yet. You can embed them in a SwiftUI view using UIVieWrepresentable. All right, so let's get started by going into Xcode. In Xcode, we're going to create a new file. We're going to choose Swift file. And the name of this file is going to be character limited text field. So what we're going to build is we're going to build a SwiftUI view that wraps a UI text field into a SwiftUI view, but this UI text field will be limited to a certain number of characters that we specify in our SwiftUI views initializer. Now, the text field can't, the SwiftUI text field can't do this out of the box. You have to use onChange or onReceive. You have to use modifiers to achieve this. So we're going to create a separate view that encapsulates all of that. Now, you could create a fully SwiftUI view for this, wrapping all of that into a different view, and that would work fine. But because we're learning UIVieWrepresentable, I'm going to do it this way. All right. So now that we have our character limited text field file, inside of the file itself, we are going to, instead of importing Foundation, we're going to import SwiftUI. Then we're going to create a struct called character limited text field. And then this structure is going to conform to UIVieWrepresentable, UIVieWrepresentable, like that. All right, so inside of this structure, we will get some errors because we're not conforming to this protocol yet, and that's fine. So we'll say we want make UIView. All right. So make UIView is the first method that we need to implement here. All right. And then instead of some UIView, this will return a UI text field. Just like that. And then I'm going to get rid of that placeholder inside of make UIView. After that, I am going to need to provide an implementation for update UIView. So update UIView. And so because I have UI text field being returned from make UIView, when we implement the update UIView method, it recognizes, oh, I should use UI text field here, and so it does that for us. We don't have to replace anything with UI text field. All right, now this method is going to be left empty, but if you needed to update certain things about the underlying UI view, this is where you would do it. Just like in UIViewRepresentable, update UIViewController is for updating anything about the underlying view controller. All right. And then the third thing that we're going to need, although it's not required for conforming to UIViewRepresentable, is we're going to need a make coordinator method. So make coordinator. And what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to return a coordinator object that will allow us to communicate back and forth between things like delegates and other data sources or other protocols that we might need to use when performing certain tasks of our UI views. Now, we do need to understand, what is a delegate? Well, a delegate is a kind of object that performs a task for a UI view, right? And this is part of a pattern called delegation. Now, how does delegation work? Well, this is a concept that UIKit uses really heavily, and you can think of it as kind of like a boss and intern analogy, where the UIView subclass itself, in this case the UI text field, is the boss, and it calls certain delegate methods to perform certain things that it needs. However, it doesn't care how those tasks are done. The boss only cares that they're being done. The intern is the delegate, so it is the one that contains all the code, all the tasks that get done, and performs those tasks. It cares how it's done. The boss does not. All right? So they're not coupled together tightly necessarily. So that's how delegation works in UIKit, and it's important for understanding how we can successfully create UIView-representables that work well. All right, so once we have this, we are going to create a class called coordinator. Now, this class is going to be our coordinator. And well, I guess before we create that coordinator, above our function makeUIView, we need a couple things. First, we need a binding for the text in the text field. So we can do that using @binding var, we'll call it text string. We should also have a label. We'll have that be a string as well. And then we are going to need a limit variable. So this limit variable is going to be an integer, and it's going to allow us to specify how many characters should be in this text field at maximum. So we will say var limit int. All right. Now let's create an initializer where we'll have label string. Text will be a binding with a string inside of that binding. And then limit will be an integer like that. Self.label equals label. Self._text equals text. Self.limit equals limit. Like that. And there's our initializer that we needed that we're going to need to give our view all the information that it needs to function. Now, above our properties, we are going to create a class. I'm going to call it coordinator. And then I want to inherit from NSResponder. And I want to conform, or not NSResponder. I'm not in UIKit. I'm not in AppKit. We need UIResponder. So UI responder, there we go. And then we need to conform to UI text field delegate. Now, let's talk a little bit about why. So, why do we need to inherit from NSResponder? Well, the reason why we need to inherit from UIResponder is because we are going to have what's called an action method inside of this coordinator class that will handle updating the state of our view. This should not be in the struct. It has to be in the coordinator because only classes can inherit from other classes. And in order to handle methods like this, you have to inherit from NSResponder. Now, these action methods are annotated with @objc. This is a legacy thing from UIKit that allows anything in UIKit to communicate with Objective-C, the underlying Objective-C code originally used to build UIKit before Swift came along. So that's an old relic that we have to deal with here. And you'll see how exactly these action methods are built as we move forward. And then UI text field delegate is needed because we need to be able to test the number of characters in our text field whenever the value of the text field changes as we're typing. So this is in fact necessary to do that. Now, what delegate method are we going to need for this? Well, before we go into that, we need to create a property and an initializer inside of our coordinator. This is going to be var parent, and it's going to be of type character limited text field, and then init _parent character limited text field, and then we'll do self.parent not padding self.parent equals parent. Now, why? Why are we passing an instance of our character limited text field into our coordinator's initializer and then that parent property? Well, the reason we're doing that is because of the fact that I mentioned earlier. We need to update the state of our we need to update the state of our of our uh, of our view, right? Every time the value changes inside of that action method. So we need to be able to access the binding text from our coordinator. And this is how we do it. All right. So the last thing that we need to do is implement our action method, and we need to implement our delegate method that we're going to use. After our initializer, we will create @objc func value changed underscore sender UI text field and then we are going to say parent dot text equals sender dot text. Now, what I should have done here instead is we need to unwrap the text property of our text field, because that can be optional. We'll say guard let text equals sender dot text, else simply return. Then we need to say parent dot text equals text, just like that. Perfect. Okay, and that is our action method. Finally, we're going to provide the method stub for our text field delegate, and then we'll move on to actually creating the UI text field view and returning it before we actually complete this delegate method. So we'll say text field, it should be we want it should be this one right here. So should change characters in range. All right. And then it also takes in a replacement string. Now, this method is going to return a Boolean, but we're not going to worry about it right now. Just to satisfy Xcode, we will return false for now. That way we don't get any errors about it yet. But now that we've done that, let's go into make UIView. And we will create our text field. So we'll say var text field equals UI text field. Now, UI text field is the UIKit equivalent to the text field view, except the UI text field view has a few more tricks up its sleeve than the normal native SwiftUI text field. So we'll say text field dot delegate equals context. So whatever the context is for this UIVieWrepresentable dot coordinator. We want the coordinator object, which is our coordinator class up above, but we haven't returned that in our make coordinator method yet, and we will do that here in a moment. You can customize other things about the text field. So you could say, do you want, if you want some kind of text already natively in there, so .text equals text, right? So we'll set that to be the binding variable of text. So every time the view gets re-rendered, that the new text from the binding is set to the text of the UI text field. Text field dot placeholder equals label. Text field dot. You could also specify the text color, the keyboard type, the border style of the text field. So I'm going to say that this is going to be a rounded rect field here. You could also say bezel, line, none, rounded rect. So I'm going to say rounded rect. Text field dot, and there's so many other properties here, right? So I will leave that to you to customize this as you see fit. But we've customized it as far as we absolutely need to. So then we will return text field like that. Now, update UIView is going to remain empty. Actually no. Update UIView is not going to remain empty because we need to update, there are certain things that we could update, right? So, let's say we will update the text property of our UI view. So we'll say UIView.text equals text. So now every time that binding changes, we update the text property of our text field, which is precisely what we need to happen here. All right. Inside of make coordinator, we will simply return coordinator and pass it a parent of self, like that. And so now that is the main code in our struct complete. The last thing we need to do is finish up that delegate method. All right, so let's go down to that method here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to get the current text of our text field. So let current text equals text field dot text. If that's nil, we will use an empty string instead. Next, we need to get the string range that we're trying to edit. So guard let string range equals range in current text else. So if this doesn't work, return false. And then finally, we want to say let updated text equals current text dot replacing. So replacing characters in string range with string. And then finally, we will return updated text dot count is less than or equal to parent dot limit. So what we're doing here, well, I want to make sure that we have this correct. Should change. Okay, yep, we're good. So what we're doing here is we're pretty much making sure that we do any replacements in the string with the new value and stuff like that. And then, so when that changes, you know, when we get the updated text, we then confirm whether or not that updated text, whether or not that updated text is within the limit we set. And that's what that return statement does. So if the updated text, if the count, so how many characters it is less than or equal to the limit we set, that'll be true. If it's not, it'll be false, not letting us type any more characters. All right. And then finally, one thing I did forget is we need to add a target for the value changed event of our UI text field. So inside of make UIView, we will say text field dot add target. The target is going to be context dot coordinator. And then the action, this is a selector type. Now this is something, again, that is a relic to UIKit. Because UIKit was written in Objective-C, we need a way to communicate with Objective-C, and that's what these selectors are for. So we can say hashtag selector, and then here we need to pass a reference to the method that we want to use. So it'll be context dot coordinator dot value changed. So this has to be a reference. It can't be like you're calling the method. It has to be a reference. Once we have that, we need to specify the UI control event. So what event do we want this to be triggered by? And that'll be value changed, like that. All right. But if we take a look here, we can say at the editing changed, the event that it initially recommended, I guess would technically be the proper event, because then everything, the text actually changes. So we'll say editing changed there. We'll save that. And we have something wrong here. So let's see here. Okay, we are returning a text field here. Update UIView. This needs to return coordinator. There we go. And we should be good to go. So let's save this and go back to content view. All right. Let's have at state private var text. This will be a string equal to an empty string. Perfect. Inside of our body here, we will say character limited text field. We'll have a label, so it'll be, let's say, test field with limit text. We pass the binding of our text variable up above, and then our limit. Let's say our limit is going to be 20 characters. We can save this and run our code now. I would like to do that Xcode, yes. All right, we have a successful build. So far, so good. And here we go. Let's put some text in here. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 18 characters. And then we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should be 27 characters, but let's take a look at what the value actually is. So we have 18. All right, so let's try doing the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. Okay. So I'm gonna get rid of all that again here. We'll say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Right? So you can see we don't exactly have every character. We can also test our characters here by doing an on change of text. And we can print text.count. And we can print that. And there we go. So let's edit this here. We'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2. All right. And let's go to our debug area and go to our console here. And you can see it goes all the way up to 20 and stops. We can try saying 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But it doesn't go any further than that. All right, so that is how we can create a UIVieWrepresentable struct where we wrap a UI view in a SwiftUI view, much like we did with wrapping a view controller from UIKit in a SwiftUI view. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you have any questions about this video or the previous video, please do not hesitate to ask me. I know it's a pretty complicated topic, especially if you're not familiar with UIKit. So if you have any questions about it, please do not hesitate to ask. And yeah, so thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.